While it may seem unthinkable that pyramids could exist in Antarctica, in recent years, archaeologists have found pyramids all over the world that had been lost for centuries, mistaken as natural formations, or hidden in the most unlikely places. They have been discovered in the plains of northern Peru, buried beneath dirt and rubble in Indonesia, and one may even exist in Los Angeles, California.
All the way around the world, we find evidence of pyramid structures. We should start looking at the possibility that there was habitation on Antarctica. Was it a lost civilization? Could it be ancient astronauts? And just maybe the earliest monuments of our own civilization came originally from Antarctica.
If this gigantic pyramid in Antarctica is an artificial structure, it would probably be the oldest pyramid on our planet. And in fact, it might be the master pyramid that all the other pyramids on planet Earth were designed to look like.
There has been extensive research done on pyramids throughout the world in terms of their structure and what it is that they really are. And one of the theories is that pyramids are power generators. And so if you have these pyramids strategically placed around the world generating this charge, it's possible to create a general standing wave around the world that is basically a wireless transmission of energy.
It's been theorized that ancient ships, extraterrestrials, and those with high technology could use this interconnected wireless energy system to navigate around the planet. And it makes sense that if there was some kind of worldwide pyramid power grid like this, that Antarctica would have pyramids as well.
The whole idea of these pyramidal structures, where did it come from? Because it's not an arbitrary thing. And these structures, they exist worldwide. So, what was the impetus? What's the origin? And even more fascinating, did they originate on the Antarctic continent?
Might the pyramid Joseph White claims to have discovered near the Shackleton mountain range and other pyramid-shaped formations recently photographed in Antarctica provide evidence of extraterrestrial visitation to our planet in the remote past? And if they are actually man-made structures, how is such a thing even possible in a place that has been buried beneath the ice for over 12 million years? According to ancient astronaut theorists, Antarctica may not have been a frozen continent for as long as mainstream scientists suggest. And they say proof can be found by examining a 500-year-old map depicting the continent without any ice. Auckland, New Zealand, 1952. Airline pilot Bruce Cathy spots a UFO hovering over the city's harbor. The craft holds him spellbound before vanishing straight up into the sky. The sighting turned out to be the first of many Cathy would have over the next 2 decades. He recorded all of them, documenting their exact flight paths, and a startling pattern began to emerge.
He spotted multiple UFO sightings. They all follow the same north-south grid lines and east-west grid lines. What he realized is that perhaps they were powering their crafts with this particular grid, because the Earth is like a hugely powerful energy source.
Cathy worked with software engineer Rod Maupin to create Grid Point Atlas, a computer program designed to map out his theory that electromagnetic lines crisscross the planet. According to ancient astronaut theorists, Many of the world's ancient cultures were also aware of this global energy grid.
All around the world, we find megalithic sites that are connected by geodetic grid lines and energy lines that naturally form from the Earth. And that there is clear evidence that there was some kind of ancient survey of the planet that took place in antiquity. And the evidence now is the placement of where these megalithic sites are that we can still see today.
Is it possible the ancients built their pyramids to tap into the same electromagnetic fields as extraterrestrials use to power their crafts?
If we knew the truth, if we had a sophisticated enough perspective on planets and geomagnetic fields, we might realize that the sphere of the Earth, with a molten core that sets up these magnetic fields, is exactly what other intelligences look for in order to use pyramids in a way that we still have never been introduced to, at least publicly. And that once you have them in the right position, in the right magnetic field structure, you have free energy forever. And this sounds incredible. It is incredible.
Some ancient astronaut theorists contend that pyramids were not only built to harness the Earth's energy, but to amplify it by using the pyramidal shape itself.
There are certain pioneering scientists that have made the suggestion that the secret to how the atom is powered is gravity. That there is, in fact, a union between gravity and electromagnetism. So if the Earth is a sphere and the energy is flowing in from all directions, you build the shape of a pyramid, and as that matter is being created, you get a swirling current. And that swirling current generates a great deal of rotational inertia in the center of the pyramid.
The Great Pyramid does make an electromagnetic energy. I have taken over the years instruments into the pyramid, converts this energy we're talking about into a voltage. And measuring in Los Angeles, it was putting out about 0.08 volts. And when I took it into the Great Pyramid, it was producing 1,200 millivolts, which means 1.2 volts. And the area around the pyramid was putting out the same voltage.
Ancient astronaut theorists contend that Earth's pyramids were not only designed for energy disbursement or powering spacecraft, but were also interconnected to act as communication hubs. And possibly even teleportation docks, capable of transporting living beings between pyramids both here on Earth and on other worlds.
If we look at all the specific instances of pyramids being placed around the globe, it could be that the Great Pyramid was meant to interconnect with these other pyramids that were built so purposely in different locations and could have been orchestrated by an extraterrestrial species for reasons we're still unable to fathom.
Giza Plateau, Egypt. The Great Pyramid is arguably the most enigmatic structure on the face of the Earth. It is the only surviving wonder of the ancient world and has inspired endless speculation as to how it was built and what purpose it served.
Ever since the first studies of the Great Pyramid in Egypt have been made, researchers have been amazed at the mathematical knowledge that is encoded into the Great Pyramid, the measurements that are used in it. Even the placement of the Great Pyramid has aroused great interest among Egyptologists.
The Great Pyramid is aligned to within 3/60ths of a degree of north, a more accurate alignment than any other structure on Earth.
When you look at the Great Pyramid's alignment, it's aligned very, very close to true north. Even more interesting is to think about tracking back in time, because the Earth's axis has been shifting slowly. It's what we call precesses. And so if there's been a shift in that alignment, it could be that it was even more accurately aligned to north in the past when they built it.
The Great Pyramid is not only perfectly aligned to the cardinal points, its placement on the Earth is seemingly intentional as well.
If you pass a great circle from the Great Pyramid through its cardinal and its ordinal directions, what you find is that these circles will pass through more landmass of the Earth than any other location on the Earth. You find that the Great Pyramid is essentially located at the centre of the world's landmass.
The Great Pyramid was built at the level of technological sophistication far in excess of anything that we have today. They don't use the inch as we normally have it in the English system, it's the cubit. And what's interesting about this cubit is that it is exactly 1/25 millionth of the polar diameter of the Earth, meaning the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole of the Earth. Chop it up into 25 million pieces, there's your cubit. It's perfect.
Is that if you actually take the length of the Great Pyramid at its mean socket level, which is the corners of the actual building, it translates into 365.24 pyramid cubits, which just happens to be the Earth a year right down to a quarter day.
The measurements of the length and width of the perimeter of the Great Pyramid correspond to an exact fraction of both the latitude and longitude measurements at the equator. Scaled up, this means the Great Pyramid directly corresponds to the circumference of the equator, as well as the measurement from the equator to the pole, making it a scale model of the Northern Hemisphere.
If you take the location of the Great Pyramid as a coordinate, this number sequence of this coordinate matches exactly the speed of light traveling through space, measured in meters per second. This is amazing stuff. When you consider the vast amount of information about the Earth that's encoded into the Great Pyramid, you can't just dismiss all of this as pure coincidence.
Ever since scientists have been studying the Great Pyramids there at Giza, there has been speculation that they may have been energy generators, some kind of power plants. And of course, the mainstream Egyptologists are saying, oh, these are just simple tombs for pharaohs.
But the Great Pyramid has the precision of a machine, and so when you consider it as a machine, you see that there are certain functions that each part of the pyramid performs. The subterranean chamber is evidence itself, and it has been demonstrated by an engineer by the name of John Cadman, who created a model of the subterranean chamber, and by feeding water in it, the chamber itself seems to cause some very unusual reactions in the pyramid.
The water would rush down the shaft of the Great Pyramid down to the subterranean chamber, which was about 330 feet. It would bypass a valve, and then the valve would slam shut, and it would cause a shock wave to be sent up the Great Pyramid itself, and then it would shoot towards the ceiling that was directly below the King's Chamber. It's a freestanding granite-tuned room, and it would cause that to resonate at a specific frequency.
The granite is the same material that you would use in a microphone or a telephone. It vibrates through the introduction of sound, and it emits electrons. Well, you take that phenomenon and you control it inside the Great Pyramid, then you have a machine that can vibrate that granite as much as an earthquake would vibrate granite in the earth and create electromagnetic energy.
Christopher Dunn's theories indicates that the Great Pyramid was sending a microwave signal to a satellite. And in fact, studies of his working devices have shown that this probably would work. We could have been sending messages into space. It's very similar to the SETI program that's sending out messages right now, trying to attract the extraterrestrials to contact us. Christopher Dunn's theory will change forever the way we look at the ancient Egyptians, their civilization, and where they came from, and where they got their knowledge and technology.
Giza, Egypt. on the western bank of the Nile River, stands the most extraordinary example of ancient engineering, the Great Pyramid. It towers above the landscape at roughly 450 feet tall and consists of over 2 million stone blocks.
The Great Pyramid of Giza is a marvel of architecture. Every block was 5 tons, and there's about 2 million of them to create a perfect pyramid shape that is one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, the most ancient one of them all, and the only one standing.
Inside the Great Pyramid are a number of fascinating chambers and corridors, like the Grand Gallery, this towering stairway that goes up into the so-called King's Chamber.
Mainstream scholars theorize that the Great Pyramid was built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, who reigned from 2589 to 2566 BC. But many experts claim this dating is based on highly questionable data and suggest the origins of the 3 pyramids at Giza are far more profound.
Archaeologists and Egyptologists claim that they were tombs for the pharaohs, and yet no Egyptian pharaoh was ever found in a pyramid in Egypt. We have found the mummies of many Egyptian pharaohs, but they're found in vaults deep underground at the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, hundreds of miles away from the pyramids.
We're taught in school that the Great Pyramid is a tomb, but if you look at the complexity of these buildings, the precision with which they were built, the features that you see on the inside, these various shafts and passageways, for me, it looks like a machine.
The design of the tunnel system and chamber rooms within the Great Pyramid have convinced engineering expert Chris Dunn that the massive structure was actually an advanced technological device.
I propose that the Egyptians built the Great Pyramid to be a power plant. The pyramids were actually geomechanical devices. In other words, they were attached to the Earth. They were tuned to vibrate with the frequencies of the Earth, and they converted the energies of the Earth into electromagnetic energy.
That energy is broadcast from the pyramid. It's picked up by the transmitters, which are the obelisks, placed at key sites that are able to be tuned to the specific frequencies coming from the pyramid.
As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the mysteries of the Great Pyramid of Egypt require further study. And perhaps someday soon, advances in technology will shed new light on its true purpose.
Archaeology is rooted in interpretation, just like the ancient astronaut theory. Something extraordinary happened right here in ancient Egypt, perhaps under the tutelage of extraterrestrials, teachers from another star system.